Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Winning in Paradise, the official FAU Owl Radio Athletics podcast, hosted by me, Nathan Kors, joined alongside my co-host, Chris Talt. So we have a couple things to go over today. Florida Atlantic football will be the brunt of that. They're coming off a blowout loss to Memphis this past Saturday. And, starting off this game already, this game was close through the first 3 quarters. FAU kept it competitive. And then the wheels kind of started to fall off early in the fourth quarter. The offense really showed out, especially the running game. And you'd think they would have went to the passing game against this kind of Memphis team, but the running game is really what showed out. Caden Veldkamp, no passing touchdowns in this game, but also didn't throw an interception, which is a very good sight to see. But break down what you saw in the Memphis game.
Veldkamp, 31 of 50, 318 passing yards. You look at that and you think, oh, this game isn't going to be a 55-26 final score going in favor of Memphis. It was a 31-26 game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so the wheels fell off the bus for FAU. Right there, they got a big fumble recovery off of quarterback Brendan Lewis fumbling, and recovering that was Kamari Johnson. FAU was set up perfectly. They cut the deficit to 5 after scoring a touchdown there, and you thought maybe FAU had a pretty good chance. Obviously, if you look at the box score here, Memphis, first quarter 10 points, second quarter 7 points, third quarter 7 points, fourth quarter 31 points. So FAU defense just didn't do any favors for this offense, which kept FAU in the game. When you look at Veldkamp's line, he battled through injury. He got hit a couple hard times in that game. The fourth quarter, got slammed into the ground, and his shoulder looked like he was having issues with that. But saw some positive things from him, and I liked what I saw from the offense. It was the Veldkamp rushing touchdown, Terrell, and Jay-Sean Platt even a rushing touchdown, which, again, Veldkamp, we wanted to see him not turn the ball over, and he didn't do that in the game.
Yeah, I think the rushing game was especially apparent. Although looking at the receiving stats, I think that was also a big benefactor. Easton Messer with a massive game, 9 receptions, 131 yards. His longest catch was for 50 yards. Jay-Sean Platt, 9 receptions, 101 yards. So kind of a dynamic duo there.
And Jay-Sean Platt, he's sort of separating himself as that number 2 receiver to go to, along with Messer. Obviously, you have Asad Wasim, and you have Dominique Henry in there too, who are solid wide receivers as well. But it seems like Platt is sort of separating himself from the pack of that group, who was going to be the one to be there with Messer. And it seems like that's going to be Messer and Platt going forward the rest of the year.
I think so too. And then kind of circling back on the defense a little bit. Second straight game where FAU kind of got killed by an opposing team's running back in the running game. This time it being Greg, I don't know how to say his last name, I'll be honest. Greg DeRosiers Jr., 19 carries for 204 yards. Kind of similar to what happened against FIU. But yeah, he rushed for over 10 yards a carry. Even Brendan Lewis, who we know as a dual threat quarterback, kind of like Kewan Jenkins for FIU, he had 17 carries for 60 yards, so not too bad for him.
He came in as the dual threat quarterback, and you even look at it, Cortez Braham Jr., who transferred in with Brendan Lewis from Nevada. He had a huge game as well. 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions, 127 yards. That's a phenomenal game. And one of those plays, 73 yards, his longest reception of the game. It seems like it's a common theme so far throughout. It's the big plays that the FAU defense can't avoid. It seems like whether you go from the FIU game or this game, there's one big play that is a bulk of that really hurts FAU. It's 73-yard reception to Braham, or it's a 90-yard rush from DeRosier Jr. at the running back position. It's those big plays that FAU has to prevent.
It's always those big plays. And then, as you mentioned, like with those passes early in the game, first play of the game, they give up a 40-plus yard reception, and then Memphis goes and marches down and scores a touchdown within the first 4 plays. But then the FAU offense backed it up, and they were able to stay competitive throughout the game. But then, as we mentioned before, about, I want to say 10 minutes left in the game, FAU gives up 31 points in the fourth quarter. I believe is third straight game. Yes. FAU gives up 20-plus points in a single quarter this season, so
yes, it is.
The defense still has a lot to be desired, but the offense at least is showing strides. And Killy said after the game that this has probably been FAU's best game in terms of just X's and O's and really just doing the little things.
I don't think this final score is definitely not indicative of how this game went. Again, it was 31-26 with 10 minutes to go. And if you're sitting right there as a Florida Atlantic fan sitting in that stadium, you're like, FAU has a chance here. You're only down by 5 against what is the best team in the American right now and probably the front runner to get the bid into the college football playoff if Memphis is to keep doing what they're doing. Still an undefeated season. They beat Arkansas the week before FAU, and overall they're looking like the favorite out of this conference.
I mean, people could say USF is the favorite because, the 2 ranked wins. But, I mean, at least record-wise, I think a lot of people would agree with you that Memphis is probably the favorite to get that very coveted group of 5 bid. And looking ahead at, Memphis' schedule a little bit, they take on Tulsa this coming Saturday, 8 p.m. Then you got at UAB. Then you take on South Florida. Probably might be the best group of 5 game, possibly of the year. At least it's up there. Then you take on Rice in Texas, then Tulane, ECU, Navy. That's a fairly favorable schedule, outside of USF, which, as I mentioned, will be a very good game. But, yeah, Memphis has a very good chance to get that group of 5 bid.
And then for FAU schedule, they take on Rice next week on the road before coming back home. But Rice, 3-2 overall, 1-1 in conference. FAU, it's a big game for FAU if they want to make things interesting.
It's a swing game,
You
for
could
sure.
even say the schedule sets up favorably for FAU because for the next 2 games, you have Rice, who's not one of the top teams in the conference, one who your preseason projections projected to be around the same record as. And then you play UAB at home, who, again, not the strongest of teams. So there's a little bit of a cushion here to where if FAU plays the way they did, minus that fourth quarter against Memphis, they should win both those games.
I agree with you. It's kind of funny, though, because, I mean, preparing for Rice versus preparing for Memphis, I feel like, even though, as you said, Rice probably isn't, one of the, 4 or 5 best teams in the American, but you really have to prepare for this team completely differently than Memphis. And obviously you can say that about, any 2 teams that are completely different, but Rice is a very RPO-heavy team, definitely the most RPO-heavy team in the American, and that can be hard to guard for some teams, and especially for an FAU defense that has struggled this season, especially, getting things thrown at them that they're not expecting. I feel like they need to prepare even more than they did for Memphis.
And the thing that I think also kept this game close against Memphis was FAU had the extra week to prepare. They had the bye week after FIU. Memphis was coming off of playing a game the week prior. And I think that was a big factor in FAU keeping the game close there for a while. And we'll see what happens against Rice. I mean, it definitely should be interesting, but if Veltkamp plays the way he did, throwing for over 300 passing yards and keeping it to no turnovers, I think FAU has a great chance.
They have a great chance. It's definitely a swing game, though, in my opinion, because now you're sitting at 1-3. Not that the season's over, even if you go 1-4, because obviously, there's still 7 games left after that. But I feel like Rice is definitely a must-win game. UAB is definitely a must-win game. I feel like you got to get at least 1 or 2 wins to carry some momentum into what isn't a crazy second half of the schedule, but, playing some teams like USF, Navy, who, I mean, they're probably I'd say they're a very underrated team in the American.
They definitely are. And then you even look at the back on that schedule, Tulane, who some people projected preseason as the favorite to win the conference with the people that they brought in. And I know it's not a conference game, but back end of the year, UConn, who is a solid team and much improved. Last year, they had a season that surprised a lot of people, and they're a pretty strong team as well this year.
And as we mentioned, on the last podcast, there's a couple of former FAU players on Tulane.
Zuberi Mobley, and it is, let's see, wide receiver. It is, no, we're not going to be able to find it. It's on Amari Hayes.
Amari Hayes.
Yep. Wide receiver and running back, so.
Had it on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, so that will be an interesting one when that comes on. But for FAU, the next 2 games, you got to just focus on this Rice game. You could go out, win this game, and it gives you momentum heading into the middle part of the season, which is crazy. We're already 4 games into this season, heading into week 6 of the college football season.
College football is so exciting, but, because of that, I feel like it also just moves so fast. We're already a third of the way
Yes, it could.
into the season. Obviously, you got, the bowl games and the postseason in general after that, but, such an exciting sport, and it just moves so fast. shifting into kind of more outside into college football in general, good amount of upsets
A lot of
over the
upsets.
weekend.
Florida State lost in overtime to Virginia, 46-38, and I don't know if you were watching that game, Nathan, but did you see them storm the field?
I did
Virginia,
see that.
how about that? That was one of the more crazy field stormings I think I've seen.
Prayers up to wide receiver Squirrel White. He kind of got trampled there in the field rush. That's probably the fastest field rush I've ever seen in my life.
They were like right there in the back of the end zone ready to go. There were photos I saw, they had their phones out, everything like that. And Virginia really wanted to storm that field. Obviously, a great win for them. They're 2-0 in the ACC. Arizona State got a big win over ranked TCU, so they're back in the rankings. Ohio State got a nice win over Washington. Notre Dame got a great win over Arkansas, dominant 56-13. Jeremiah Love had 4 touchdowns. Great performance. Oregon beat Penn State in the whiteout in overtime. That was another crazy game. I mean, there were a lot. It was a great slate. Ole Miss beat LSU by 5. Alabama beat Georgia by 3. Texas A&M beat Auburn. They're still a very good team. Tennessee beat Mississippi State 41-34. Garen, if you watch this, go Vols. And Illinois beat USC on a game-winning field goal. So there was not a shortage of great games this weekend, and college football's chaos.
Definitely one of the better weekends we've seen, not only this year, but I feel like in recent memory in college football with all the upsets. And then going back to field storming a little bit, I think it was the Illinois game. The Illinois fans stormed to the field after beating 21 USC. Do you agree with them storming the field after, a very minute upset? I don't even know if I'd call that an upset.
I forget if Illinois was favored or not, but regardless, I don't know why they stormed the field. I mean, I get it. It's fun. It's college football. But when you're the 23rd ranked team and you have the 21 ranked team, you're playing at home. I don't really get why they did it. I mean, it was a game-winning field goal again at the last second, but definitely an interesting field storming.
Do you feel like if the circumstances were different, like if it wasn't a game-winner situation and it was just a slow, grinded-out fourth quarter, do you think they still would have stormed the field?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I think it was just the game-winning field goal feel to it, and just everybody storming the field with that win.
Just ignite an energy in a way.
Right now, who do you think is the best team in college football?
Best team in college football? I was going to talk about the AP poll for a second. I mean, Ohio State's ranked number 1. You got Oregon at number 2, Miami at number 3. I mean, I'd have to go Ohio State, even though, I think they're probably the most talented team in the country right now. You could say that some other teams maybe have a slightly better track record, but I'd still have Ohio State as my favorite.
Okay. And bringing in the AP poll before we talk about rankings where everybody is, in the American, USF is receiving votes, Memphis is receiving votes, and North Texas is receiving votes. It just speaks to the depth of the American Conference here this year. 3 teams, and then you could even add Tulane, who's not a bad team, that could end up sneaking into some of these votes. It's definitely the American spot to lose this year. If they're the conference that's going to get a team into the college football playoffs as a non-power conference.
I feel like they have to at this point. I mean, this is the strongest we've seen the American in probably ever.
It almost seems locked that is going to happen, barring a collapse from all of these teams. But it definitely will be interesting. Top 5 in college football right now: Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Other takeaways from the top 25, Nathan?
I think I agree with Ole Miss getting moved up a good amount of slots, then LSU getting moved outside the top 10.
Lane Kiffin, former FAU head coach, doing a great job at Ole Miss, and beat big game Brian Kelly. LSU did beat Clemson earlier this year in Death Valley, Clemson, but that win against Clemson isn't looking very impressive right now with how their season's going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that it's like 2024 FSU, but I mean, starting 1-3, if you're Dabo Swinney, you can't be happy with that, especially for a team that relies mostly on just recruiting and doesn't really. They've started using the transfer portal a little bit now, but they've still mostly relied on recruiting. Penn State at number 7.
I think that's good. Penn State. I mean, again, Oregon is a very good team, and a loss in overtime, I don't think it affects anything. for Penn State too much. I mean, it's a win. It would have been a nice win, but it's not one that's gonna push them out of potential playoff spot.
It is unfortunate though that once again James Franklin just wasn't able to win the big game. But I mean, he does have a good track record other than that of winning 10+ games every single season.
Yes, he does. Alabama jumped 7 spots after beating Georgia. Props to them beating Georgia on the road. Alabama can't figure them out the last couple of years. We don't know what they're going to be up to. And then looking towards the bottom half of these rankings, Florida State dropped 10 spots to 18. Arizona State back in the rankings at 25. Virginia climbs in for the first time this year at 24. Illinois is in still. Notre Dame moves up a spot. And it's definitely chaos this year. I think this is one of the years where you don't have a clear number one in college football. Like you could make a case for probably 10 teams. You can make a solid case for 10 teams to win the title this year.
Yeah, that's part of what I love about college football. It's just so unpredictable. I mean, even despite what the AP poll says, I mean, it's really anyone's for the taking. I mean, you could even see, assuming a team from the American gets in, you could see an American team possibly make a real good playoff run. It could happen.
It could definitely happen. I mean, we've seen Memphis knocked off Arkansas, who did fire their coach, but anything could happen. It is college football, and you see a lot of these American teams right now, they have a veteran presence, and they have guys that stuck around. Although, I will say Memphis, they basically have a brand new team. They only returned 3 starters from last year's team, and they're a brand new team, but they're a veteran group. So, college football, it's especially nowadays in the transfer portal era, it is led by veteran teams in the big moments that end up winning these games.
No doubt. And shifting gears a little bit, going over to just briefly the hot seat around college football. As you said, Sam Pittman before got the boot a few days ago over there, Arkansas. Some other names to keep an eye out for to possibly be fired. I mean, I'd say Billy Napier, Trent Dilfer at UAB, who FAU plays in just a little under 2 weeks' time here. But we could see UAB start to turn around their season a little bit. Same with UF, but I feel like for Napier specifically, I don't know, I feel like the writing is kind of on the wall for him.
I think it is, but personally from the outside looking in, also knowing a lot of Florida fans, I think he's getting a better rap. Their schedule is brutal.
It's the toughest in college football.
It's the toughest,
no doubt.
Like you said. Like, oh, by the way, now you got to go play Texas. I mean, I don't know, even if you have a great team, if you're going to win, you're going to probably drop 3 games throughout the course of that schedule, even if you're a very good team. It's just a challenging schedule to really take hold of if you're Billy Napier in Florida. And it's almost basketball season. FAU men's basketball around the corner. First exhibition matchup against Florida Tech at home on October 30th. What do you think what are your early thoughts about this basketball team this year?
I'm definitely optimistic. It is unfortunate for the second straight year, and especially for Jacobs, especially that he has to go through a pretty much almost entirely new roster yet again.
It seems like that's the norm in all of college basketball, not just the Florida Atlantic problem, but you lose your best players every year to either the draft or the portal who want to go to bigger schools. So
yeah, I mean, in this era of NIL and just how the transfer portal is nowadays, it does, as you said, it feels like that's going to be the norm every single year. I mean, it feels like FAU's Final Four run a couple years ago. That's probably the last time that's going to happen, possibly, for a long time or possibly ever, just because of how much things have changed. But I mean, looking at the roster, I am very optimistic for this team. This is a very young roster, though. No seniors on this team. You got a couple of juniors, but a majority of this team, it's underclassmen. It's true freshmen or redshirt freshmen, either way.
What new player excites you the most?
I'd probably there's a couple. I mean,
there's a bunch, and it's a great thing to have. You could pick from
Maxine
Lowe. You could pick from Kanan Carlisle, who played at Indiana last year. You could pick from, I'm going to stick to the transfers here. You can even go to Devin Williams and Isaiah Elohim. There's a lot of guys that have played big time basketball that are coming into FAU, and I think it's going to help this team out big time this year.
I was going to say, because I could look at this 2 ways. I could look at this from the guys entering in from the portal, or I could look at, newcomers in terms of from the high school level. And starting from the high school level, I'd have to go Josiah Parker, 4-star, highest rated recruit in FAU men's basketball history. It feels like this is just kind of a do-it-all glue guy, and he might be slotted at the guard position despite being, 6'6", 6'7". I mean, whatever you will, but I mean, I think Parker, there's a good chance he's going to start this year. We'll talk about in a second what we think the rotation will look like in terms of like the starting lineup and backups.
Who do you think and who do you want to see kind of take that next step, who was already here last year, from like a Vanderpool or a Moretti to lead this team this year for an early start? I mean, yeah, certainly can. We saw Moretti, he doesn't turn the ball over. He is a steady rock to have at the guard position for Florida Atlantic, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. And Vanderpool, we saw him take a lot of growth towards the end of last year. He got an increased role as the year went on, and he showed out towards the back end of last season. And I'm excited to see him play in a much bigger role this year. I expect to go to those two. Personally, I think one of those guys has to be starting this year, because you have to have some continuity from a system that Jenkins started to get into place last year.
I could see Moretti and Vanderpool starting. Obviously, I'm Vanderpool. I think it was about like the last 8 or 9 games of the season is when he really started to be in the forefront of this FAU rotation, and he was probably FAU's best perimeter defender, at least in that last stretch, but potentially all season. Just the tools that he has shown. His dad, fun fact, David Vanderpool, is an assistant coach in the NBA. Used to be an assistant for my Minnesota Timberwolves. That's pretty cool. But for Vanderpool, I think he could really, I want to see him develop just more of his game, specifically his 3-ball. I think he could really become a real 3-and-D threat for this team.
And before Josiah Parker came in, Vanderpool was FAU's highest ranked recruit.
He was.
So now,
which is crazy to think
it passes
about,
to Josiah Parker.
Because you had great players like before Vanderpool, like Elijah Martin, John L. Davis,
who have gone on to some great things, now playing pro basketball in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's FAU has, if you want to look at it this way, they have their 2 highest ranked school recruits here at the same time.
That is crazy to think about. I mean, if you asked me who's the second behind Parker, I would not have guessed it'd be Vanderpool, but I could see it being in the top 10. He does seem kind of like a household name now.
He's certainly a Vanderpool. When you look at him, he is an athlete who knows how to play the game of basketball. And what do you think for a rotation starting lineup thing right now? Early thoughts on that?
I've mulled this over a little bit. Obviously, as I mentioned, I could see Moretti and Vanderpool starting. In terms of like what exact position they're slotted at, Carlisle is a weird one for me. I could see him being kind of just like a 6-man, just a scoring guy off the bench, kind of a microwave scorer kind of guy. I think Moretti will definitely get the start, probably at point guard. He's only 6'1". He's probably the primary playmaker of this team. He was top 3 last year in the American in assist to turnover ratio.
It'll be good to see him start to, hopefully. Well, if he does, because again, speaking to it, doesn't turn the ball over. And early in the year, when teams are setting themselves into how they're going to play in the system, it's crucial to have that. Back a couple years ago, 2019, I was at Madison Square Garden for the Champions Kickoff Classic between it was Michigan State, Kentucky, and Duke and Kansas.
I think so.
And those games, it was the first games of the year for all those teams. It was turnover, turnover, turnover. And if you have Moretti here, who's here now for his second year, I think that's going to prove huge for the Owls, especially in that non-conference slate.
Yeah, I think not only from a talent perspective, I think Moretti definitely gets the start. Obviously, we'll see what Jacobs comes up with. I think Vanderpool, he's probably gained a lot of trust from Coach Jacobs. I could also see him though coming off the bench as like maybe like the 7th man if Carlisle is the 6th man.
The more I look at this roster though, I see a roster that is more deep than last year.
I think so. Despite all the youth makeup of this team, I could definitely see that. I've talked on the backcourt a little bit, looking at more like the front court. Isaiah Elohim is another kind of weird one for me, but I could see him being slated right next to Vanderpool in the starting lineup. Whether it's, I don't know what it would be though. I think Elohim would probably play the 2, Vanderpool maybe the 3, just because of the defense versatility there. You kind of want to you want to play your more defensive versatile guys kind of at like the taller position, if that makes sense, like the 3 versus the 2. And then if you look at the front court, you got a couple of options. Devin Williams, I think he's almost a lock to start, probably at the 4 spot. Maxime Logie, the Oregon State transfer, 6'9". Dude is absolutely built, by the way. I don't know.
He's going to be a unit in the paint for this FAU team. It's going to be...
All I'm going to say is alley-oops to Maxime Logie, whether it's Moretti throwing them or Carlisle. It's going to be absolute cinema when we're calling games in the LA. I'm really excited for Logie. He is kind of raw, the France native, but I think
it's not a bad thing to have raw talent like he has and anybody has, because Coach Jenkins, we saw it last year with Voikatitis, who's now moved on to Texas. Jenkins is going to develop these guys, and they're going to grow over the course of a long season. And then that brings us to, I want to talk about the conference slate. We know what that is going to be every year for the most part, playing every team once at home for the most part, once away. But headliners this year, opening at home against Boston College. You play in the Field of 68 thing again, which last year was a great tournament. Exciting games against Charleston and Liberty. You got Pacific at home. You play St. Bonaventure at home, which is a good one. Hopefully Woj is there.
That's probably the biggest draw for that game.
And then even St. Mary's on the road. That's going to be a challenging one. St. Mary's consistently in the tournament every year, year after year. They're right there with Gonzaga out of the West Coast Conference. You play UCF. It's not a tough non-conference schedule, but for a brand new team, I think this is kind of something you want to see.
I think this is a good way to kind of just get the guys adjusted, get a lot of momentum in going into conference play. I think FAU, I don't think they will, but there's a good chance they could damn near run the table in this non-conference schedule. I think St. Mary's is probably your toughest game, especially that being a road game, because as you mentioned, St. Mary's, especially in recent years, has kind of become almost like a powerhouse mid-major.
They really have been. Really back to as long as I can remember watching college basketball, they're consistently in the tournament, and they are a very good program. So that'll be a challenge, but that'll also be a good challenge for FAU because that's towards the latter half of their non-conference schedule. So by then, hopefully, some things are settled and they have it mapped out to what the rotation is going to look like, everything. Because after St. Mary's, it's UCF, and then it's conference play.
No doubt.
A good test right at the end of non-conference schedule, which that game's on December 19th. So we'll see a lot. We'll know a lot of FAU before this game, and I think that's a good thing that could maybe make that game a sneaky game for FAU to go in and win.
And then you also got another fun game in there. On December 7th, you go to Fort Myers and take on FGCU in kind of a revenge game. We called the FGCU game here in Boca Raton last year, and that game ended in an absolute heartbreak. I know you remember it. Jevin Munoz sunk the Owls at the buzzer. I think it was like a right elbow jumper. He banked it in. Very clean shot. So that'll be another fun game in there. I think a pretty favorable game for FAU.
Yep. I agree. So I think that'll do it for this episode of Winning in Paradise. We're going to be back here for episode number 4 next week. FAU, some things to look forward to in that episode. We'll recap FAU Rice. We get closer to basketball season for the men's and women's teams. Sports are picking up here on campus the later we get into the fall, and we're excited to see what happens. So we will see you for episode 4 on Winning in Paradise next week.